Bell Bottom deals with the espionage mission India undertook in the early 80s to break the plane hijacking streak that had troubled India between the late 70s and early 80s. 8 times, the story tells us that the hijacking was carried, which triggered political tension between India and Pakistan, who had already worked out the differences in the 70s via an agreement. You know what happens when you are settling an argument on a piece of rough notebook that bears no significance, and those covenants mostly end up in the trash after the LHS has been proven to be equal to the RHS, or the political means have been achieved. Apparently, the written words suffer from a deficiency of seriousness in the world we live in. Why can't they shake their hands and be done with it like old times? Pran jaye par vachan na jaye. The movie is based on a true account, allegedly. The story enforces a claim in the rolling credits, composing a eulogy of the classified exploits of the Raw. Well, they have enjoyed their time being classified. Now that Bollywood has taken a whiff of it, there is no stopping from it becoming public knowledge. To me, and probably similar uncomprehending beings of the earth that live in a bubble of their own, catching fancy to extremely ordinary actions, suspecting some secret government agency to pull off political espionage successfully without derailing the relationship with the other countries, is like expecting the math teacher to call in sick. Highly improbable. No matter the situation, your exam is going to happen. The movie was banned in the Middle East, apparently over a factual error pointed out by the government agencies explaining that it was they who diffused the tension back in the day. Despite the tone of the subject, Bell Bottom does not try to equate itself to a serious movie. The silly narrative tries to highlight the circumstances that prompted the rise of a genius spy under the wings of the Raw in the beginning, when the movie circles back into the tenuous backstory of Akshay Kumar. The character of Anshul Malhotra, played by Akshay, doesn't challenge the norms of a typical spy candidate. His conveniently vivid linguistic skills across multiple languages, his sharp memory, an eye for detail, and a commonplace UPSC aspiration keep him in the running for the secretive world of the Raw. Anshul is, of course, unaware of his visceral fascination for it. It is an unremarkable component of the story that attempts to deliver with courage how none of his ambitions would end at him being in the Raw. One aspect that painfully emphasizes the incompetence of the narrative is the unwanted reliance on the romantic subplot. Time and again, Bollywood tries to manufacture spy thrillers or movies based on a patriotic theme by adding commercial angles to an insane amount, which thankfully has been conveniently slipped into the narrative without stimulating any obstruction. But the way I look at it, it was probably unneeded. The pace of the story is well maintained throughout. It touches upon the important bits and pieces of the puzzle, manufacturing a decent, albeit unreliable conclusion. There are plenty of over-the-top moments that have been shot with spontaneity without relinquishing control over the entertainment factor. Akshay Kumar fronts the caper dressed in bell-bottom almost all the time, and just like that, he dons the code name bell-bottom that strikes us in the face like pervasive fashion sense of the 80s. At least the reveal does. He looks dapper in every scene, which is not to say his physical agility overpowers his performance. I mean, what does he eat and how does he keep himself, mind you, not just fit? He's an athletic wonder for someone at the age of 54. He jumps around, hangs off the ledge of the moving train for an aesthetic shot, throws fury punches at the terrorists who would possibly be 20 years his junior. He sips cola drink to constantly remind us that it was a fad in those days, even leveraging the soda power to dilute the existence of well-scrawled evidence on a piece of napkin. He attracts special attention in almost every scene. It is also because the other characters feel dwarfed compared to him, owing to plain ingratiation from the writers. The writing of the story makes a conscious effort to sell the star power and therefore comes overbearing on the real meat that the story has to offer. And then there is Dolly Ahluwalia, who plays Akshay's mother. She is a sprightly old lady who gets off by naively complaining to his son for the lack of reasonably sufficient standard of living. She is excited to go off to London to meet her other son, who she believes will offer her a better lifestyle. We all know that she is putting up a pretense to camouflage her love for her son and his wife. It is a factor of disbelief that she strikes a perfect vibe with her daughter-in-law, like she was a prodigal progeny came from her own womb. Come on, it didn't have to happen like that. but of course, she had a very brief yet affectionate stay in real life, so I was ready to munch on the bait. Adil Hussain has nothing special to write home about, for he enjoys a small but decent space on the screen, except for one comely scene where he rises above the star power whence he hatches an apt example via a story based on the sordid conversation filled with innuendo between the canines. It meets with an air of skepticism by the on-screen actors and a bevy of whistles and laughter in the theatre that comprise of a very small gathering. Vani has a limited screen presence, quietly filling up the eye candy bucket, although it would have been much better if she was written well than poorly. The pick of all the moments from the movie, of course, has to be Lara Datta's transformation to become Indira Gandhi. She looks like a spitting image of the ex-Prime Minister, even learning to babble dialogues as Miss Gandhi did back in the day. But it is difficult to fool anyone with just a transformation if the role requires you to roam the confines of the PMO. Despite that, Lara Datta's performance of the Prime Minister lends sturdy support to the flow of events. It's a Racy, Pacy movie that has been created keeping in view the sensibilities of a theatre-going audience. The length is an advantage that largely stands in favor of the movie. The fact that the story is real-life inspired, although the authenticity of the specifics is little disputed, it works very well despite a commercial potboiler. There is an unencumbered exhibition of silly emotions here and there, yet it keeps you bound to the couch even though the suspense and thriller part doesn't exactly add anything to the furtherance of the film. In the end, I would rate the movie 3 on 5. Thank you.